Is AI impacting the luxury travel market? Hello and welcome. I am your host, James. On the Boostara Podcast, we speak to leaders in business and uncover the truths and insights from their amazing experiences. At Boostara, we help companies boost growth, cut costs, and gain better business insights. If you would like to learn more about how we can help you, please type the word growth into the comments below, and I will be sure to reach out. Today, we are joined by the CEO of Wayfairer Travel, Jason Stevens. Hello and welcome, Jason.
Hey, James. Thank you for having me on your podcast. Excited to be here.
Absolute pleasure. And I think you win, Jason, the award for the longest time zone difference between host and speaker. Where are you calling us from today?
I'm in Auckland, New Zealand. So, yeah, I'm literally the first country in the world to see the sun and the last one to go to bed.
Amazing. New Zealand is it's been on my bucket list for about 25 years. I've yet to get to New Zealand, so I'm probably going to have to talk to you after this about fulfilling that.
We have a great range of services to New Zealand, ironically. So
brilliant. I mean, Jason, for our listeners that are unfamiliar with yourself, unfamiliar with Wayfairer Travel, could you just give us a brief overview of yourself, your journey, your spark for starting Wayfairer Travel?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started my life in the corporate world. My very first job was working in a bank, which I didn't enjoy at all. So I quickly found an exit out of that. The exit out of it was, interestingly enough, I was the T-boy at a logistics company. My background's actually in supply chain. I did a postgraduate studies in supply chain management and went on and did my Henley MBA. And they were all postgraduate alongside while I was working. So the majority of my career was spent with DHL. DHL is an incredible organisation. I was in DHL in the very early days when it was a privately held company before it was purchased by the German Post Office. Also was there during the transition where the German Post Office or the Germans took over. Saw both the private side and a little bit of a maverick type organisation that was punching way above its pay grade into being the corporate entity that it is today. Fortune 500, I think it's in the top 10 or top 20 number of employees globally, so a massive organisation. I was with them, I left, I did a few other things. I worked in the Middle East for the Sheikh there. I worked for a French organisation, Schneider Electric. But found my way back to DHL. I ended up on the board of DHL, or the Asia Pacific Management Board, in their e-commerce division. And getting to the board level was always my dream. I'd always looked up to those guys, and that was always where I wanted to land. Ironically, when I got there, it wasn't what I thought it would be, and it wasn't as rewarding, and it wasn't as interesting. And I wasn't sure what the rest of my life was going to entail. And I bumped into a guy. I was Bangkok-based, commuting between Singapore, travelling Asia-Pacific, and to a certain extent globally, but more Asia-Pacific focused. And I bumped into a guy that was one of the founders of Wayfairer Travel. They were a small, scrappy startup, which interestingly enough reminded me of a company like DHL in its early days that was punching way above its weight. Great branding. They had a fairly good product offer. Back then it was just for UK travellers going to Africa. Only Kenya and Tanzania. They couldn't really get any traction. The two founders were young guys, couldn't get access to funds, couldn't do much to grow the business other than doing what they were doing. It was a £400,000 a year business. They approached me to become an equal partner, which I did. I became an investor advisor. From the investor advisor role, it went from 400,000, catapulted to 700,000 during my investment period. And all of a sudden it's 1.7 million. And the advisor part became a little bit precarious when you got a full-time job. So I had to make a hard decision, which ended up not being that hard in hindsight. So I fell into this rather than planned it, or it was a conscious decision.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, what did you do that managed to catapult them from 400,000 to 1.7 million?
Ironically, the basics. The basics. Hire a couple of good salespeople that were recruited. I recruited them, interviewed them, hired them. We put a CRM in place, Back then it was Zoho. We've since migrated to, we're with HubSpot now, so we've got a proper corporate system now. Zoho was a great startup system and really put a lot of things in place. We also put accounting packages in place. We started looking much more at lead generation, service level agreements between sales and leads and contact points. It was the stuff that was bread and butter at DHL, and fortunately I'd been with DHL in the early enough days that they'd started putting those things in place, so I saw the benefits, obviously at a much bigger scale. So it was all about finding smaller equivalents, but they would do similar sort of things and get great results.
Amazing. And I mean, with that like lead acquisition, bringing in new customers, have you seen that's changed or developed over time? Specifically in the luxury market, has it gotten harder, easier?
Harder, much harder. It is highly competitive. The big guys want to reach into our space. They've tried. If you look at, for example, who's a good one currently? Four Seasons. Four Seasons a great one. Ritz-Carlton's another great one. They're trying to do the sort of experiential / tailor-made type offer as a extension to their property offer. It has got more difficult. You are competing with different players to what we have historically. The space is relatively crowded, and it's got a little bit more chaotic recently. There is a lot of flux.
Yeah.
For me, I think flux is a great time to seize advantage, because if you can get your head around what's changing, find any opportunity that puts you in a space where there is high levels of change or even a little bit of chaos, and you can be stable in that space, you actually start to take some benefit from that, and that's kind of where we're at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Would you say the kind of wants and needs of the customers that has changed or developed, become a bit more mature over time?
It's changed a lot, and I'll go pre-COVID, and I'll caveat this with a position of relevance. So pre-COVID, we were UK-centric, so mainly servicing the UK market. We were getting some Europeans, the odd Asian client. There was a bit of a mix, but we were heavy on the UK, not many Americans pre-COVID. So we didn't really know the American traveller all that well. Our conception, or maybe misconception, of the American traveller was a bit more insular, not as well travelled, didn't travel as far abroad. And during COVID, we saw a massive change where they started reaching out and started making inquiries. So we saw a real influx of US travellers, US inquiries. And the most interesting part during COVID was the Americans had the greatest appetite for risk, which wasn't what we expected at all. They were the first ones to jump on planes. So if Kenya opened up its borders, the phones were flooded with Americans saying, which plane can we get on and when can we land in Kenya and start our safari, which was massive for us. We were 90% UK pre-COVID. We currently are 60% US clients currently. And that's growing. Our business is growing in total, but our US client base is outgrowing all other client bases.
That's very interesting. Why is that, do you think? Is there a reason? Because I think when you go back, I mean, I remember, when was it? Reveal my age, like 25 years ago, being at Lake Louise, the hotel, right? Yep. And at that point, the early 2000s, I think Japanese and Korean tourists were becoming more affluent. They were traveling further afield. And I remember seeing that there, and that was the trend at that time. And I think we've always presumed that internationally, the Asian market is one that's growing in any kind of luxury or just general travel trends. But Americans traveling more internationally is not something that you would think that's a kind of trend.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I can only comment for the luxury sector because that's where our focus is, and we don't put a huge amount of effort or time into finding out what other clients or other travellers are doing. The luxury travel sector specifically, COVID did capture the Americans and they did get more of a wanderlust. We get a huge amount of word of mouth, so the Joneses talked to the Smiths, and the Smiths heard the Joneses went to Kenya and rode on a balloon, and they want to do it. But the interesting thing about Americans is the Joneses went on a balloon, we're the Smiths, so we want to go on a balloon, but we want a bigger balloon and we want it to go further. So we can tell the Joneses we went further. There is a bit of one-upmanship with the US clients, which was great. We love that because we're always in a position to, offer more experience, better experiences, new experiences, because we're always sourcing those. And look, the US travelers, I don't know if it was COVID per se, or they were just heading in that way and it just accelerated it. But long may this trend continue, because they are traveling a lot and they are great clients.
Does that make it? When the clientele culturally is shifting and changing, does that present challenges in terms of how and what you provide on a day-to-day kind of service level, the kind of expectations they have on the ground?
For us, we changed the model very early on. When I was at DHL, there was a global customer solution model that was based on DHL's top clients, where a salesperson did sales, and what we had in DHL was called program management. I have no qualms admitting I ripped that model off and transported it into travel because it made a huge amount of sense. So typically in travel, the travel consultant is the owner of the client, from the inquiry to the closing of the deal, the trip design, the closing of the deal, and the after-sales support. Yeah. We took a different look at it and said, look, a salesperson is a salesperson. They're a bit of a hunter. They like the deal. They like the chase. That's not necessarily the best person to take care of a client when their daughter gets a runny nose in Kenya, and how do they get access to cold drill or something like that, just as an example. So we started recruiting and hiring what we call concierge, much more of a nurturing type profile, people that came with that experience, people that were passionate about the client's journey and their in-trip experience. So we separated the two, and we've found it to be massively successful. Our 5-star reviews outperform any of our peers at a disproportionate level. If you run the language through any sort of filtering devices, the emotive side and the recognition and the use of our staff's names is second to none. So I think we've approached it a little bit differently, and by hook or by crook or by luck, something that I brought over from my old world into this world that seems to have worked very well.
It's treating people on an individual level with high service, no matter where they're from, what they want, because tailor-made is it's important not to put people into okay, you want exactly this, or you're going to have it like that, but everyone's needs are very, very specific, no matter where they come from, right?
Absolutely. And it's having that understanding of that difference, it's appreciating it, it's also putting the right people in the right jobs, doing the right things for the clients, that I think makes a huge difference.
Amazing. And what would you say the misconceptions are around luxury travel? Because I believe, from my perspective, luxury travel has changed over the years. I think most people listening, or a lot of people listening, will think, as soon as you say luxury travel, they'll just think the best kind of hotel with the most beautiful beach, with drink in hand, laying on the deck chair, right? Like that's what they'll conjure in their mind. But is that true for luxury market? Is that how the luxury market wants to be defined?
I think if you break it down by age group, the people my age and probably a bit older see luxury as the gin and tonic in hand, and the butler with the white gloves, or the silver service at the table, etc., etc. You get down into the younger generations, and it's luxury / experiential, but also my generation definitely, and some of the more senior clients as well. They're really chasing the experience side of travel now, and there is a better understanding of the total trip budget as opposed to staying in the absolute best hotel, because let's be honest, the hotel is part of the trip, but it's not the the memories that you bring back. You don't come back and tell stories of the hotel you stayed in. You come back and tell stories of, hey, they arranged this food tour for me, and I never have thought of trying these types of foods, and we were in Tokyo and we had a wagyu steak at one of these restaurants, and it melted in my mouth. Food gets a lot of traction with our type of clients. The experiential, we've started piloting a snow product in Japan, for example, which is getting very well received. And not a lot of people really see Japan as a ski destination. It is one of the best ski destinations on the planet. And you start opening those things up, but it's not just the skiing. It's cat skiing, it's the sake tasting, it's the ability for us to organise for someone to do their own handcrafted katana sword. There's so much more to luxury/experiential, and I think the word experiential is starting to surpass the actual word luxury, especially in our world and how we engage with our clients. Our consultants don't consult on thread count on a bed. They consult on seeing the big five. Is it during the migration? If you're going to India, is there a food tour specifically, or a particular festival? Much, much more than rooms and the traditional sense of luxury, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You remind me of a little sentence, a little quote I often gave out to people, which was, once you've done one really nice beach, you've done them all. you know what I mean? And it's. I'm very fortunate. I've travelled. I've been on some beautiful beaches in Oman. My dad used to work in the Middle East. We had empty, mile-long beaches to ourselves, on Christmas Day, New Year's Day. Tahiti, Thailand, Philippines. But once you've done one beach, your expectation is then all beaches I go to should be measured like this, right? And the likelihood is they will never surpass that first time that you had an amazing experience at a beautiful beach or a beautiful hotel, a beautiful resort. And I guess a quick question for yourself, as someone who is extremely well traveled, I'm not going to ask you where should I go, because you've already answered that. It's tailored to the individual, right? But for yourself, what's the most memorable trip or the most memorable experience, place that you visited over the years?
Again, this is a really hard one to answer. I get asked this a lot, obviously, and I couldn't give you a single location, but what I can give you is a situation. So I was with my daughter, who's now 15. She was 13 at the time. We were on the deck of a expedition boat, and we were watching blue whales breaching the water. So a pod of blue whales breaching the water. We're actually in Antarctica at the time. So to set the scene, and we arrived there not really knowing what to expect, and it absolutely blew our minds. It was, and no matter how I tell this story, and I've told it so many times, every time I listen to it, I'm like, I just don't have the words to do it justice. It's just, it was a feeling, it was the moment, it was 3 hours had passed, and we're like, God, we've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, it's 3 a.m., and we'd been up there since 11 p.m. and hadn't a clue that 4 hours had passed. And that's one, but I could spend hours telling you about, my daughter having a baby gorilla from Uganda on the Highland gorillas, and the gorilla actually came and was going to sidle up to her and try and grab her leg. Fortunately enough, we were well versed and explained in terms of what the risks and what to do and how to behave. She didn't panic, and the guide took care of everything. But again, watching that unfold and the whole experience, the words will never do those things justice. So you have to travel them. You have to have these experiences. And the thing that I feel very fortunate about, I keep having them. They keep happening, and they keep blowing my mind. And it encourages me to do more of what we do. The biggest driver for me with this whole thing is, how do I get to touch as many people as possible to allow them to have something even close to what I've been experiencing as I've gone into this and started developing our product and experiencing what we do or what we're going to do for our clients. And it's special. It really is, James.
Yeah. I mean, people are money rich, time poor, and what
Sure.
struck me about what you said is with your daughter, right? It's the moments with your daughter. It's who you share those moments with. It's the
Yes.
moments that matter most, that you remember towards the end of your life, that stay with you. And as a luxury travel provider, you're providing those moments. That's absolutely invaluable. Whatever the moments might be that are memorable for one person, it might be the gorillas, it might be the whales, it might be staying on a luxury beach and just having time, right?
Yeah.
Those moments can be very individual for every person. But it brings us nicely, actually, when saying moments. Obviously, we're having a big discussion on AI, and one of the benefits that AI brings is to speed up tasks and to
Yes.
give us more time for higher leverage activities, more time for speaking with people, more moments that we can enjoy, right? I want to hear from you, Jason, your experience. How is AI impacting the travel sector? How is it impacting your day-to-day work, your day-to-day job?
Yeah, impacting the sector obviously hugely. If you look at the big brand OTAs, AI is everywhere. You can't step into the inquiry world now without being bombed with AI. Positives and negatives. For us as Wayfairer Travel in the luxury space, we've got a really simple play on this. Take everything that's mundane and boring and give it to AI. And that's our goal. So wherever there's a keystroke that could get repeated, find the technology so a human's not having to do that, because there's no satisfaction in typing on a keyboard. There's no satisfaction for a travel consultant doing administration or doing product research that helps them pull together a better trip or trim a budget. So a lot of that part we've pulled into, and pre-AI, we were doing workflow automation, all those types of things. So to me, AI's got a lot of hype with it, and AI's got a lot of benefit, and AI's got some massive potential that I don't even think we're tapping into yet. The risk, I think AI needs to monetize a lot quicker. So we're watching that very carefully from a risk standpoint, because we are deep into it. So we need to know that we're ring fencing these tools that we're bringing into the business. AI for us now will help us trim an itinerary by allowing us to look at 3 other properties that are similar, but our consultant does the briefing and AI does the legwork, rather than the consultant going off and searching through scrolls of inventory. AI will go and go, right, based on those criteria. So again, intelligent prompts, quicker legwork, and a quicker response to client. Also, you don't have travel consultants scrolling on pointless screens. They're talking to clients. I actually think in our space, I think it's going to elevate the human touch point to a higher level. That's what we're backing on. So we're backing on building the technology behind the humans and pushing the humans even further to the front.
Exactly, yeah. And for you travel consultants, the most valuable thing that they can do is speak to the customers and build on that trust, build on that relationship, to ensure that they book, right? But also to bring them back
Sure.
again. That's the whole basis of them booking with Wayfairer Travel. It's the service staff, right? And the service that they deliver. But I imagine the more bespoke the itinerary, the more work, the more time that has to go into it. So that's the balancing act, right? It's how can you leverage AI to be able to do that at the same quality standard that someone would do over the phone and putting it together.
Correct. So we will never replace that part of the experience. That consultation, that working with the client will only ever be people. And we're very, very sure about who we are, where we go, and where we stand on this. You don't know what you don't know, but we do know that our clients appreciate our travel consultants. Look, here's the thing. I use AI a lot, and I'm always looking at the risk factors to our business and where it could catch us out. I did a full trip based on AI to assess the risk, and I ended up in a onsen, which was a very local onsen up in an area called Yamagata. If you're ever interested in an area that is otherworldly. There's a place called Yamagata, and they've got the Yamagata snow monsters, and it's the only place in the world where this phenomenon occurs, and the trees actually turn into what look like monsters, and it is the entire ski field is covered in these Yamagata snow monsters. It is... It's just mind-blowing. But I'd come down off the mountain, and I like an onsen after I've been bashing my body snowboarding for a day. And they didn't have one at this particular hotel that I was staying at because I was in the city because I wanted to get on a train the next morning. So I asked for an onsen. They put me in a taxi. They sent me out to the onsen. I had a fabulous onsen in a very, very local, rural area that I would never have found otherwise. So I'd done all my planning, and I'd said to AI, right, I'm doing this, and how do I get back? And it's like, well, you can contact the front counter, and you can use me as a translate, and I'll put this message, and you can show it to the front counter, and they'll book a taxi. No taxis. The taxis don't come to this location. They'll drop you off, but they won't come there to pick you up. Yeah. This is a 3-hour walk in winter, snowing in rural Japan. So I set off walking, because what was my alternative? I've got to get back to my hotel, which 3 hours was going to put me sort of in the time frame to get back on time, start getting ready to pack and get on a train to head out. Anyway, they were, and this is the human touch versus AI. There's no way in the world AI could fix that problem, yet this sweet little lady at the onsen phoned someone, God knows how, found someone that spoke some English, and they came and found me and took me to my hotel. You can't replace the human piece. Computers don't have soul. And I believe truly we're seeing the soul part of what happens in business or in anything becoming so much more prevalent. The great news is the boring stuff doesn't have to be done by the people anymore. And I think that's what really... it excites me. I love what we do. I don't work for a living. I get to do amazing stuff with amazing people, with amazing talent that talk to amazing clients about amazing trips. That's not a job. Hasn't been for a very long, it hasn't been since day one, to be perfectly honest. But you look at all of that and take all of the mundane stuff out and get to do more of that. Yeah. Kind of blessed, really.
Yeah. Amazing, right? You said that you think you've only just sort of tapped into the capabilities of AI for the business, right?
Yeah.
If there's a part of the consultancy approach that you take with clients, or other kind of areas of your operations that could be automated, that hasn't managed to be done yet, what do you think would have the biggest impact? Within your company, but within the travel sector in general.
Great question. Look, in travel, I think we're a little bit edgy. I came from a different background, and so everything that I was told that can't be done in travel, I'm stubborn. I've tried it, and I've screwed up on numerous occasions. But for example, you can't automate workflows based on leads to salespeople to invoicing to clients paying. It's fully automated inside Wayfairer. A lead comes in, we built our own algorithms that HubSpot couldn't even provide to us that allocate leads to our salespeople, and its effectiveness is incredible. We have one of the highest conversion rates in industry, and we know that factually. We're double digit, and we're a double digit that I am yet to come across anyone else that says we convert at the same rates. Yeah. So conversion rates are at an all-time high. Take those conversion rates, our itinerary performance, we have an in-house tool that we built, and we're constantly evolving that and adding additional automation to it. Automation that enhances the experience and helps the travel consultant, but also gives the client a better experience relative to what they're being displayed, what they're looking at. So we do a lot of work around heat mapping to see where clients spend time, and we enhance based on what clients like. Also, we don't apply one size fits all. So we do take some personas, we look at client profiling. We then get to the point where a client says they want to book. Sales hit a button in HubSpot. The automation takes care of everything. Invoicing, the whole bit. Payment is handled. Even that is automated back to the updates. I get an update on HubSpot dashboard that says a deal's closed. Salesperson may find out at the same time as me or after me. regardless of the levels of automation. So, look, I think AI can do so much. I think you just got to be careful to understand what it can do and what you're doing it and why you're doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And the overall experience that the customer will go through, does it benefit them? Does it
Correct.
improve the relationship? If it doesn't improve the relationship, is it needed necessarily? Does it help save time? But certainly if it is not improving, if it's having the opposite effect on the relationship, then it shouldn't be, because that's your bottom line, isn't it? You need to develop, you need to be very careful and ensure the highest level of quality service, right?
For sure. And there is the risk of boiling the ocean, right? You can get very busy for the sake of being busy, and AI can take you down that path, and it can take you down some really deep rabbit holes. The other thing that we've found with AI is it's really good at telling porky pies, right? When it tells a lie, it gets really good at doubling down on the lie, and it is damn convincing. So again, there's massive opportunity, there's some risk, there's also thinking from the client back. And we always start with our conversations. How does this impact the client?
Yeah, exactly. Jason, I mean, what would you say going forward? What's the future vision for you guys at Wayfairer? What does the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 year have in store for you guys?
We're in a doubling cycle. So we've built Wayfairer with a lot of the automation, with a lot of the systems, with the ability. So you've asked questions around AI. We've built a recruiting tool that we can take a 48 to 72 hour time frame. We can basically filter through anywhere between 700 and 900 candidates through this AI platform that we've built. It has a 2-phase approach to recruiting. So we'll run advertising, we'll get the candidates in, we'll take 600 to 700. That will give us a forced ranked list. It will also do filtering for people that don't qualify relative to some key criteria that we believe are must-haves to either work at Wayfairer or work in travel, ideally a combination of both. And that ranking, through a scored ranking and some conditional questioning, gives us our second round. We'll usually push that to 30. That has another element of AI in it. It does your typical Myers-Briggs, which gives us some personality profiling capabilities, a video interview. That video interview is scored by AI. It does do scoring. And interesting, when we first built this, the team were a little bit uneasy. So they went through and watched all the videos themselves. I didn't give them the scoring on the first time. So they went through and I said, give me your top 5. Their top 5 and AI's top 5, bang on. May not have been in the same order, but it matched 5 on 5. That in itself was hugely reassuring for the team, but it's the clock speed that it's given us and the ability to recruit when you have something that changes. I talked earlier about chaos. The chaos at the moment has given us a rare opportunity to look at really expanding the business. Doubling, there's not many companies doubling in today's environment, and companies of a decent size. We're not small, we're not big, but we're a decent base to be doubling from. We're right in the thick of that. And again, circling back to the AI question, we wouldn't have been able to do that because we wouldn't have been able to do the recruiting to meet all the other metrics. So, put all the pieces in the puzzle, and there was that missing piece that we've now plugged in. So my belief, and the numbers are supporting this, the next 10 to 12 months we will double in size.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. That's speed, efficiency from the way that you're looking at the operations internally, but then I think everyone listening can get that sense, the pride you take in excellent customer service and the relationship building, the delivery with the customers as first and foremost the most important. You wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't have that that level of service and that need from customers, right?
The great thing is, with what we've done with technology, my time is spent purely on product and client experience. Again, that's the dream, right? If you're a CEO and you can spend all of your effort, time, and focus on ensuring your product delivery, how can you fail?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, for a lot of listeners, me included, are probably now thinking, "Oh, 2026 is coming. It's on the horizon. What are my holiday plans?" I still need to knock off New Zealand. I mean, for anyone getting excited, want to talk to someone, book in the holiday. How should they get in touch with yourself, with your team? Where should they go?
Yep. So easiest way is to come straight in through the website. We have an inquiry form through the website, so wayfairertravel.com, or look up Wayfairer Travel. You'll find us on Google, and there are phone numbers there. So depending on where your clients or anyone listening is based, there are local numbers in most locations. When you Google search us, it'll give the local number, and that will route you directly through to one of my team. And they love talking to clients.
Amazing, brilliant. I will put those contact details below for anyone to reach out. But I suppose to summarise, Jason, I'd say a few things from our conversation. One, customer service is vitally important. Not just in travel, not just in the luxury travel market, but everywhere. And I think even more so probably with the kind of business that you run. Moments and experience stand out as what luxury can maybe not fully be defined as, but is such an important aspect of what the luxury travel market is. And as far as AI goes, automate to be more efficient, automate for speed, and you will grow just as you guys are expecting to grow over the coming years. Would you say that's an accurate kind of summary, Jason?
It is, because the sector is growing. It's already a massive sector, and we are seeing quite a bit of creep into what would have been mid-market. People are prioritising experience. They're not going out and buying the fancy handbags or necessarily spending money on the bigger car or the second car. There is much more of a move to experiential spend. So we're seeing that, and what it does is, the family that would have possibly said, look, we're going to upgrade our car, will say, screw the car, we're going to go on a great holiday or a great safari, or we'll do the Antarctica trip. We're going to go into the Patagonias. There's thousands of choices. The options and the choices and the destinations are becoming greater. So the interest levels and the feedback and the word of mouth type messaging that's out there, it's all going in an upward direction. So part of it, you can just ride the natural growth of where the world's headed.
Yeah, exactly. And life is too short. Who needs a better car? Live for the moments, right? You never know when your day's up. As morbid as that sounds, enjoy the world as accessible as, easy it is to travel. And absolutely. I would fully encourage absolutely everyone and anyone, get in touch with Wayfairer Travel, plan out your next dream holiday. And Jason, just to finish off, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Likewise. Thanks for having us, James. I really appreciate it.
Brilliant. And thank you everyone for listening. Please like and share this video so we can get this message out to as many people as possible. Thank you very much.